Hello puppets, how you doing today? Having a good life? What's up guys, Sente here. YouTube channel dedicated specifically to beginner and intermediate players to help them get better at the game. So this YouTube screen, this game right here, wish I could say that I was black, but I wasn't. I got my booty handed to me really good. And once I sort of collected myself and scraped off the bruises, I went back to try to figure out what went wrong. And I came to a lot of realizations about how to review a game productively when you're an intermediate and a beginner player. Everyone always talks about how reviewing the lost games is something that you should do and how people should do to get better. But I don't think a lot of intermediate or beginner players really know the best way to review a game. That being said, I think a lot of teaching games that beginners play with Dawn level players also end up being inefficient because the teaching style isn't really suited for sort of a queue mindset. Want to learn how you can get the maximum benefit out of your games? Well, I did, and I dug into it, and I'm going to show you guys what I found. So stick around, it's going to be awesome. Let's get started. Okay, so just to provide a little backstory for this excursion, I for the first time on OGS, got to a 9Q level in the rankings, and I was ecstatic. I was feeling like this is basically how I was feeling. And then I go and lose game after game in a row and drop back to 11Q, which turned my feelings to something like this.
I can't do this. I know. It's so wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here.
Now, rather than play another game, I'm like, what changed? I was wasting these people 2 days ago. Something had to change in my game to make this happen. And so, followed my own advice and tried to look at this first game to figure out what was wrong. And when doing so, I realized a lot of really steps that you need to do to review a game in a meaningful way, which I will share with you right now. Okay, first thing you gotta do is you've gotta laugh at the game. Okay, two things happen when you look at a game that you've lost horribly and you feel disappointed about. Okay, the first one is you get angry. Second one is you get overwhelmed. People who are angry and overwhelmed rarely perform well, unless they're on the dark side of the force, but you know, those are special cases. Bad jokes aside, you should definitely just look at the game and laugh about it. Be like, who's this guy? Who's this mook playing this game? Am I right? Was that me? Was that me? Once you've done that, you have done two things. First of all, you have made yourself feel a little better. And second off, you have taken sort of the anger out of the game, and so you can really look at it a little more objectively. Alright? That's the philosophical advice. Now we'll get into the actual advice. Okay, the next thing you need to do is you need to identify repeated mistakes and repeated themes in your game that caused you to lose. So this is, I think, pretty divergent on how most people review their games at a beginner intermediate level, and how a lot of higher level players play teaching games with their opponents. So I've had a lot of teaching games played with me in my life, and a lot of them would go something like this. You're playing this guy and he kicks your butt, right? And you're like, oh great, now I'm going to learn something. And so the guy who is teaching you is like, oh, here's a mistake. The Joseki sequence for this is actually here, then Hane, then undercut, then super this, and then do this, and then magic, and then oh my god, and then you've captured everything. Something like that, right? And he goes through this entire crazy sequence, and you're just like, okay, yeah, I get that. That's super simple. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. This is done about 10 more times. You've learned a bunch of new sequences, a bunch of new attacks, and you learn a bunch of different things that you did wrong. Then the next game, you go to apply this knowledge, and you can't remember a single thing that he says. At least that happened to me. In a lot of ways, and they teach you a lot, and you learn a lot of really cool things, but the thing is, when you're trying to take one game and get better from it, you need to focus on only one thing to fix for the game afterwards. And so the first thing you need to do is identify what that biggest thing is. And that biggest thing generally isn't a Joseki, a Tsuji, or a fighting move. Those things are little. Those are the sorts of things that you sort of learn over time, that Dan players really stress over. For a beginner and intermediate player, we're thinking about the big picture, right? Here are some simple things I thought of just on the top of my head. Maybe you played the game and you lost Sente so much that your opponent got a bunch of free moves and owned you. Maybe you haven't defended almost any of your cut points, and as a result you lost a big group and then you lost the game. Maybe you were too timid. Maybe you're too afraid to actually try to attack something, so you let your opponent walk all over you. Maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're too aggressive and you're leaving weaknesses all throughout. Okay, I'm talking about these big overarching themes, things that you can easily recognize and easily fix for a beginner and intermediate player. So, let's take a look at this game. I was black in this game. No, I'm sorry. I was white in this game. And I went and I'm going through the game. And I'm looking, and I'm going, and I'm going, and oh look! I let myself get cut off. And as a result, I lost 3 stones. So I didn't defend the cut point at the time that I needed to defend. Right there. And as a result, I lost 3 stones, and my position is very weak. Now let's look again. Oh look! The exact same thing happened. I left a cut point up, and I lost another 3 stones. Alright. Fast forward through the game. Remember, I'm not looking at specific moves, I'm looking at themes. Alright, so we're doing things, oh look! Look at those, look at this. Look at how I let myself get cut off again from everything else. Now these are 2 groups that are cut. They stay cut, black gets strong. I'm desperately trying to run for my life. Now don't look at the specific moves, look at the flow of the moves, right? So you see that white group in the upper left that's just really struggling right now. And I make a decent capture of this black stone, so that's good. This black group right here, that's pretty good. But at the same time, I let him get away because I didn't defend this cut point right over here. And so looking at this game, every single loss, everything that I've done that made me get a horrible position and lose is because there was some cut point that I did not defend. Bottom line. I'm not talking about, complicated Tsujis, fighting moves, Josekis. Really, the main repeated theme in this game was the fact that I let all my cut points go. And I looked at my other games in this losing streak, and the same theme in all of them. I try to attack something, I'd leave a cut point. I'd get cut and die. And so this gave me a lot of really great information. Now this is something that, it's not a sequence of moves I have to remember. All I have to do is take away one thing from this losing streak that's been happening the most often, and that was that I left too many cut points. And so the next thing is, how do you fix it for next time? Okay, step 3 is you need to make a plan for the next game. You need to take that thing that's been repeated, that one thing, don't think about anything else, and say, I will play my game, but I will fix this. And you can't just say, I'm going to not do this. You need to figure out some sort of concrete method for fixing this. In my case, I left too many cut points, right? So what I did was I looked at my game and I said, okay, if I don't have Sente plays severe enough so that he has to respond, I have to defend any cut point that I see. That's it. If I'm not attacking something redonkulously huge, I am defending a cut point. If I wanted to Tsuji, but I have a cut point that's undefended, I'm defending it. I'm not caring about the result. I'm just going to see where that takes me. Where this change in the principles of my game, if that can bring me back to where I was before. I applied this to the next game that I played after losing a bunch in a row, and I easily won. I won by like 26 points. Because my groups were solid, my groups were strong, and because I gave myself that rule, I didn't leave any weaknesses. which means that when my opponent left weaknesses, I could easily exploit them, and I wasn't making these giant, huge trade-offs in the game. Since then, I've felt a lot more confident about how I've been playing. I feel like I learned a big part about how to get stronger at this game, and I felt like I now can see when my game is slipping a little more easily than I did before when I didn't really know what the problem was. So everyone's going to have different problems and different things that they're going to fall short on when they have a losing streak. And a lot of games, it'll be good to learn small lessons. Maybe you are looking at a game solely for fighting, and you're like, oh, like this is a cool technique, this is a cool technique. But when you're going through a losing streak and you're just getting wasted from people you should be beating, there's a big reason for that. Like, there is a principle that you are not following. And as long as you identify what that is and only focus on the one improvement, I think the odds of not only getting more from the game that you're reviewing, but taking those lessons and being able to win games from your losses and come back even stronger is going to be greatly magnified. That's all I've got for you this week. Please let me know if this advice helps. Try it out on your own games. See how you went wrong. Let me know if this helped or didn't help, if you see improvement, what you had for lunch. I'm not picky. I care. So, yeah, that's all I've got for today. Have a great week. And as always, Blitz is happening on Thursday on Twitch. Be sure to check that out. Shameless plug. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. Have wonderful games. Have a wonderful life. And I will see you, metaphorically speaking, at some point, either this week or next week. I'll see you on the grid.